Hello. What can I do for you?
Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts from Explore Scientific and the Explore Alliance, and this is the 25th episode of On the Wing with Kent Marts. And Kent, what do we got today? You are muted, Kent.
Yep, I'm always muted unless I'm not. All right, so
Like
today,
me.
yeah, either muted or you're not, one or the other. I was sitting here not paying attention and didn't get completely set up. Today we're going to have reader submission, Scott. So we have a couple of different people who have sent in some very nice pictures. One endangered species, which is pretty cool. So getting all set up here. Whoops. Let me share my screen here. Oh, I didn't do sound. Hang on. So, Scott, I think you, Annie, and me are the only people in the building now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think there's
Well,
anybody
some
else
customers
here.
in the building.
Well, Annie's with them. Yeah, their customers are people too.
Yeah, we have customers that are in the showroom. So
Yep, just came in, and that's why we stay open, because we want our customers to be able to get last minute stuff. They came in looking for microscopes. So a lot of people don't know we do have a store here in Springdale, Arkansas. And we love to have visitors come in, and you get to talk to a lot of them. It's fun listening to you tell your story and talk about what's going on. So welcome to On the Wing. With this edition, we're going to start out with a photo by Carl Bernhardt in California. And I went back and forth on this one. He questioned whether it was a Beldings Savannah Sparrow. I did some research. The Cornell lab does not have the Beldings Savannah Sparrow listed in the database. National Geographic Birds of North America does not have it. However, I found a couple of websites, University of California, places like that, have identified it, and looking at it closely with other Savannah sparrows, I'm going to go with this as being a Beldings Savannah sparrow. I couldn't determine why it's called Beldings Savannah sparrow, but it is. And so it is a marsh bird. You can see from the distribution map that it's specifically a salt marsh bird, and it's Southern California down into Baja California. So California has declared it an endangered species back in the early 2000s. It's a medium-sized sparrow. It's identified by the small yellow patch around the eye and bill. So you can see it right here, not real well, but there's a yellow patch there. And it is slightly different than the other pictures of Savannah sparrows. So I'm going with it. Light brown feathers, and because it's not in Cornell, I don't have sizes and stuff. I couldn't really find out a whole lot of that kind of detail. Light brown feathers with streaks of black on its back. Okay, those are there. Crown contrasting with the bright white breast and belly. Okay, yep, that's there. It's in a habitat of salt marshes along the Southern California and Baja coast. Yep, this was taken at the Bolsa Chica Preserve in California, which is a salt marsh. The bird is threatened because of its interconnectedness with salt marshes, and specifically with specific plants that grow only in salt marshes: pickleweed, saltgrass, California sea lavender, and sea bite, all adapted to grow only in salt marshes. All right. Salt marshes are disappearing in California due to development. 75% of the West Coast salt marshes have been destroyed in the U.S. Other threats, yeah, it's just amazing to think about that number. Yeah. Interestingly enough, other threats come from human visitors who cause significant damage in the remaining salt marshes, because the birds are ground nesters, and the nests are impossible to see. And so they trample the areas where they nest, or they actually crush the eggs, which are nearly invisible on the ground. And they also trample the very plants that are needed to survive. Invasive species are also to blame, specifically Algerian sea lavender, which began appearing in the California salt marshes in 2006 and overwhelms both the California sea lavender and grows right up to the edge of the water, which also chokes out the pickleweed and the saltgrass and the seed bite. So let's listen to the Beldings Savannah sparrow. I did find a recording of it. Here we go. In California, from a California website. To me, it sounds like a sparrow chirp followed by a red-winged blackbird call.
Next to an airport.
A highway, I think. I really like the videos that show the bird actually making the sound, because you're certain what you're hearing when you hear it. We'll make it one more time here in just a second. Come on, cooperate with us. jump back. So there you go. That's the Beldings Savannah Sparrow. California recognizes it, and the field guides I have access to, I could not locate it, but an endangered species declared by California. Let's look at a couple more pictures of this bird. Here's another one that shows that yellow streak around its eye. And another one, here it is, with a little insect. So they're insect eaters, seed eaters, opportunistic feeders. And another, and so we're shifting on to the black Phoebe, also Carl Barnhart. As you can see, this is a member of the flycatcher family. It's a monomorphic bird, as we know. It means that the male and female look alike. Here we go. Let's listen to it first. Obviously, that bird's working to make a nest. Trying to get back to the front, start it over again. There it is. We'll stop it there. Okay, so we can see the very little range in the United States along the California coast, up into maybe a touch of Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, a little bump into Texas, down in the Big Bend region, and then extensive down into Mexico, Central America, and ranges in the Andes and the eastern northern portions of South America. This also, one reason back to the Belding Savannah Sparrow, I decided it's because of where it was taken. The location all matches as well. So with the Black Phoebe, this also matches very well with the location where it was taken, which is in Lake Perris, California. That's Perris. Beautiful bird, 6.3 inches long. It's a small bird, but plump. Has a very large head. Tail is medium long and squared off. Flycatchers almost always have long tails to give them some maneuverability to do what they do best, and that's catch flying insects. The bill is straight, thin, and black. There's no eye circle. Sooty gray to black on the upper half. The head is slightly darker. If you notice, it has clean white feathers covering its belly. So it has a lot of contrast to it. Favors low perches near water, where it sweeps out to catch insects and then goes back to the perch to wait for another opportunistic meal to complete the circle of life. It often keeps singing its string of sharp chip calls over and over and over and over and over again. It's like I said, its range is the California coast, extensive range down into Mexico, Central and South America. Interestingly, this is a species that tolerates humans very well, but it does not feed at seed feeders. So you can't put out, millet or corn or anything like that. They may eat mealworms at feeders. But as flycatchers, they love to catch flying insects. They've also been documented to snatch small minnows from the surface of ponds and feed them to their young, just like they would insects. They build nests under the eaves of houses and other protected areas if water or mud is nearby. So a little bit harder to attract to your yard unless you have some water nearby, put out mealworms. But I think the requirement ultimately is going to have a lot of wetlands or at least ponds around the neighborhood where you live to attract this spectacular bird. I've got another picture of it here. And there it is, back on the same perch. Notice it's on the same perch, right? And it came back after catching a moth, which one of its food sources are flying moths and flying beetles. So this is another example of the black Phoebe, same bird, taken at Lake Paris, California. Thank you, Carl, for your great photos there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
No, it's just I'm surprised. I mean, it came back to the exact same spot, so
in reading up, they have favorite perches. They people that hunt like specific spots for specific reasons, and this bird has figured out that this is a spot it likes to claim as its own, and will come back to the same spot over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the next one is if you grew up in the United States or watched a lot of TV in the 60s and 70s, you can easily identify with the road runner.
Oh, yeah.
Right. These are big birds, nearly 2 feet long, head to tail. They're big. They're size of a raven, but a longer tail because of the body, longer because of the tail. They're tan or brown with blackish streaks on the chest and top side. The black crown has a small pale spot with a patch of blue skin behind the eye. So it's blue, red sort of skin in different colorations. And if they have their crest up, and in breeding season, it's more pronounced. The name gives away the predominant behavior. They run. They're typically ground-dwelling birds, can easily outrun humans. They've been clocked at 26 miles an hour. They are weak flyers. And when they run, they really lean into the task and will run effectively parallel to the ground. Very cool to see. I've seen them at our farm here in Northwest Arkansas before. Haven't seen one in a few years. But it was cool to see them running down the road. We'd pull in a truck and they'd take off down one of the farm roads. Their coloration makes them difficult to spot when they're in brush. They're easily seen along roadsides and grasslands. They will perch on low trees and power lines sometimes. They're hunters. They're carnivores. So they will go after lizards, small mammals, and birds. They'll eat eggs. They'll raid egg nests. They'll eat small mammals, mice, voles, things like that. I would say I couldn't find any documentation, but I would suspect that a newborn rabbit would be on the menu if they find them, because they're big birds and can take down some pretty big prey.
Norm says they're snake killers too.
Well, that's exactly where I was going. They can eat venomous lizards, scorpions, and even rattlesnakes. They often hunt in tandem, with one distracting the serpent by jumping around and flapping its wings to keep its attention. Then the other one rushes in, pins the head down, and they kill it by bashing it against rocks. Okay.
Wow.
So they will beat the rattlesnake to death and then swallow it head first. If the snake is too long to fill up their crop and fills up their crop, the bird will walk around for days with the length of tail hanging out of its mouth until it fully swallows the snake. So I tried to find a picture of one with a snake out of its mouth. I couldn't do it, but yep, they do indeed, as Norm says, eat snakes, and specifically dine on the ever popular rattlesnake.
Wow.
Our cartoons lead us to believe that they are birds of the hot, arid Southwest, but their territory has pushed east almost to the Mississippi River, and they occupy southern Missouri, all 9/10 of Arkansas, and half of Louisiana or more, all of Texas, southern half of Arizona, and New Mexico, and maybe half of California, and then down into the middle states of New Mexico or of Mexico. All right. So weirdly, they've adapted to these arid regions by developing a gland that secretes salt, just like seabirds do. The gland is in front of each eye. And so when water is scarce, they can survive off the moisture in their prey. They don't have to drink water as long as they're still able to catch prey, and the salt is excreted from this gland in their eye. As I said, just like seabirds. I did not know that, learned that. And they also leave a distinctive X-shaped footprint, which I have seen thanks to them running through some mud at the farm. 2 toes in front, 2 toes in back, and there's a whole southwestern native cultural lore about the roadrunner. I did not get into it, and I didn't read it deeply, so I can't go into it. But there's all different deep lore about the roadrunner and its importance in the culture of the Southwest native populations. Now then, as we all grew up, we know that roadrunners go beep, 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 and can outrun the coyote. But neither one of those things are true, because coyotes can run 42 miles an hour and can turn just as sharply as the bird can. So coyotes do prey on these birds, and they do not make a beep beep sound. Although we've all been conditioned to just think that, but it's not true. They make a weird dove-like cooing sound. They also make a clacking sound with the bill, and they also make what I'm thinking of as a chuckle or a bark almost. So I found 2 videos. Both of them show, the second one is going to show that barking sound. I think it's the second one. Here's the first video. Let's take a listen to the roadrunner go, me, 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 me.
Hard to hear.
Yeah, they haven't done it yet. There it is. It's just like a mourning dove or a turtle dove.
Or a quail even.
Almost a quail-like sound. You're right.
This is, I didn't realize this, but roadrunners are a species of fast-running ground cuckoos.
You say that, and yes, there it is again. It looks like an American cuckoo almost. Here's the bill clack.
27 miles per hour.
Hang on, listen.
That's pretty fast.
Listen. Here comes the sound. Oh. There's a crow. This may be where it makes the clacking sound. No, it's right here.
Oh, wow.
To me, that sounds almost like a grasshopper flying from Johnson grass or something. It sounds like a flying grasshopper. There's the cooing again. If I heard that sound, I would be looking for a turtle dove without knowing. There's that clack. So let's listen to this other. This is where it makes this weird, almost barking like sound.
That is crazy.
It's a chuckle or a bark. I wish we could see the bird making it to see what its movement is.
That's definitely a bark.
That's almost like a sound you hear in swamps.
So you were talking about Native American um, tribes, and the Hopi and Pueblo tribes believed that roadrunners were medicine birds and could protect against evil spirits.
Right. Yeah, because they're big. I mean, look, they can protect against evil spirits because they can eat rattlesnakes and scorpions.
Yeah.
If you can eat a rattlesnake and a scorpion,
yeah, you're
gonna
tough.
You're tough, and you're going to protect us. You keep a roadrunner around you, you're going to keep the evil spirits away, because by golly, that bird can eat them. That's easy to see how that came to be the understanding. So great picture here of a roadrunner, and obviously, from the scale of the photo, it wasn't particularly concerned about Norm's presence. He's not real far away from this bird. So great job. This was taken in Carlsbad Cavern. These series of photos that he's taking here through this, he all took on a day when he was on a hike and saw these birds. And it's pretty cool. So here we go. Going on. He found this, which he called a buzzard. So, there's no buzzards in the United States. This is a turkey vulture. They're monomorphic, really large birds, the size of a Canada goose, stand 25 to 32 inches tip to tail. From a distance, they look black, but when you get closer to them, you realize the birds are actually a dark brown. The head is red, not because of red feathers, but it is featherless. It's red skin, unlike the red-headed woodpecker, which has red feathers. Bill is ivory covered. When sunning or viewed from below while the bird is flying, the bottoms of their flight feathers are a pale tan to white, which are easily seen here. And when I saw this, I thought, well, maybe it's a California condor. It's not, because if you look at this picture, it's reverse where the white and the black is, and that's much more like the coloration pattern of a condor. So that marked this as a turkey vulture. They're fantastic soaring birds. You see them riding thermals with effortless, no flapping, just riding thermals up and down for hours on end, circling gracefully, often in large flocks. They are fascinating to watch. They roost in groups in trees and on buildings, which is great if it's wilderness, but if they happen to be roosting on your boat or on your roof or on a tree next to your house, it can cause all sorts of damage, because they like to tear up stuff and use their raptor bills to rip stuff up. They provide a very necessary service because they are carrion eaters. You'll often see them huddled up in a congregation next to a roadside roadkill, doing what they do best, and that's eating carrion. Typically, these are not birds that you want to get to your backyard. They're not going to come to feeders. There's only one way to attract them to your backyard. Get some carrion, put it in your backyard. If there's turkey vultures in the area, they're going to come find it. But typically, as humans, we don't keep carrion around in our backyards because, it starts stinking. Now, the cool thing is that stink is how the turkey vulture finds what it wants to eat. It has a very sensitive smell, and of the 23 vulture species around the world, it has the most finely tuned nose and can find dead things carrion the quickest. interestingly, the black vulture, which I never saw until maybe 8 or 10 years ago here in Northwest Arkansas. It's a species that was not here that has made its way to the area. Black vultures rely on their vision to find their food. They visually look for carrion. They also will watch turkey vultures that smell it and get to it faster, and they will go to where the carrion is being led there by the fine-nosed turkey vulture. So fantastic birds, big, beautiful birds. They're so graceful to sit and watch when they're riding thermals on an afternoon. Of a morning, if it's cold, they will turn and face the sun, just like this bird is, spread its wings to warm up its body, and until it finally feels the updraft starting to form, and off they go to circle the day away in search of carrion. Scott, do we have any comments or questions so far?
Yeah. Let's see. Martin Eastburn says, I thought that the turkey vultures were northern and blacks were southern.
Here in Arkansas, that we always had turkey vultures. I literally, I've lived here my whole life, and for well more than 40 years, never saw a black vulture. And I remember seeing a picture of one. I was in the newspaper business, and one of the editors of one of the small weekly newspapers sent me a picture and said, "What's this bird?" And I said, "I have no idea what that bird is," because I was decent with birds and with bird identifications, and clearly it was a vulture or something, some sort. So I started doing some research, and it had been hit on the side of the road, and somebody had taken it in to a veterinarian, and she just happened to be going by with one of her pets to the vet when she saw it. And so Annette finally identified it as a black vulture. And so I looked it up, and I was like, never seen one of those in my life. And I will get some pictures of black vultures this spring. They are predator birds. They actively hunt, and I have seen them hunting the calves in our cattle herd, and we had to protect the calves from them. They will kill calves. They will also, if a cow is down in childbirth and doesn't get up, the black vultures will peck their eyes out and peck their tongues away. So just but they are truly a predator, just like a mammal predator, and will do depredation to the point that they are a migratory species, so they're regulated by the Migratory Species Act. The Fish and Wildlife, the federal's Fish and Wildlife Organization has issued the state authority to issue depredation permits on black vultures, or black-headed vultures. So anyway, we will get some pictures of that, and we'll talk about that more. So now then, this is On the Wing, and we've been talking about birds this whole time, but we can also talk about a new venture into On the Wing. And these are pictures that Norm got of bats leaving Carlsbad Cavern in New Mexico. If you've never been to Carlsbad Cavern, it's a cool cavern to go into. My dad and I were out there when we went to Mount Davis and used the Struve telescope back in, I think it was 2008. We did not stay. We had an agenda to get to, and to be up at the observatory. We did not get to see the bats coming and going either morning and night. These bats specifically are Brazilian free-tailed bats. Okay. They are mammals because they're a bat. All right. Monomorphic, wingspan of 11 to 14 inches. So these are really big bats. Okay. The tails are almost half their body length. And when the mammals, it's hard not to say birds, when the mammals fold their wings, the tail sticks out freely, hence the name free-tailed bat. All right. They're medium to dark brown. slightly lighter colored on their underbelly. Their ears are broad and round. They roost in caves, mines, wells, hollow trees, buildings, bridges, and other protected dark areas. Their flight is a rapid, forceful wing beat that propels them along. There's a sound that they make, a chirping sound, but I couldn't find a recording of it that was any good other than just, if you've heard a bat, you know what a bat sounds like. Their range covers the southern U.S., the Caribbean, Mexico, Central America, and northern South America, hence the name Brazilian free-tailed bat. The population in Carlsbad Cavern fluctuates depending on the season, with highs during the spring and fall migration. Estimates range 700 to 800,000 bats in the cave at that time. There's a population of a few 100,000 that call the cave home year-round. And while there are some babies born in the cave, it's not considered a maternity colony. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so for everyone in the maternity colony, it's not a maternity colony because more than half the population are males, and so they will have maternity colonies in other caves, but Carlsbad Cavern is not considered a maternity colony. Okay. Also, they are threatened, like all birds are. But if you've been paying attention to bats a little bit in the past, 8-9 years, they are threatened by Whitenose Syndrome. It's a grave threat to bats. What it does is when they're in hibernation, it causes them to wake up and out of hibernation, and then they can't survive because if they fly out early, there's nothing for them to eat. And so that's the mechanism where Whitenose Syndrome is threatening bats. And there's been some research.
Is it a virus or a fungus or what?
It's a fungus. I believe it's a fungus.
It's a fungus.
Most caves, all caves on state-owned property in Arkansas are closed permanently. And the caves in state parks have been closed in an effort to, without knowing the mechanism, there's some supposition that humans are carrying them from cave to cave. I don't think has been any real hard science data, but it's one of those things. If you don't know what to do something, right?
Yeah, leave it alone.
The humans are the variable, so just leave them alone and hope that fixes it. So I should have looked up because I knew I was going to talk about Whitenose Syndrome. Scott, you may look it up real quick and see if you can find some current data on Whitenose Syndrome in bats. Okay. Sure. While Scott's doing that, finish up talking about the birds. The birds. See, did it? These flying mammals. There are two other species of flying mammals that live in Carlsbad Cavern: the cave myotic and the fringed myotis bats, or as I wrote in my notes, baits. There are other bats that live in the park, but those bats do not. I think there's like 8 other species, if I remember. Those 8 other species do not roost in caves. They're let roost in overhangs, hollow trees, places like that. You found anything yet, Scott?
Yes, it says there's actually a whitenosesyndrome.org website.
Not surprised at all.
Yeah, and Whitenose Syndrome, or WNS, is a disease that affects hibernating bats, as you described it. It is caused by a fungus called pseudogymnoasis destructans, or PD for short. Sometimes PD looks like a white fuzz on the bat's face, which is how the disease got its name. It grows in cold, dark, damp places and attacks the bare skin of bats while they're hibernating in a relatively inactive state. And as it grows, PD causes changes in bats and makes them become more active than usual, and they burn up fat and need to survive the winter. Bats are with Whitenose Syndrome may do strange things like fly outside in the daytime in the winter. Biologists first saw bats sick and dying from Whitenose Syndrome in 2007 in caves near Albany, New York. However, cave explorers in that area had taken a photo of bats with the white powder on their nose the year before. So Whitenose Syndrome has been in North America since at least 2006. Its PD was unknown to science until it was found in North America. After that, researchers began looking for it elsewhere and found it on bats in Europe and Asia, where bats do not appear to get sick from the fungus as they do in North America. We don't know how PD got here or where it's from. PD spores can last a long time on surfaces such as clothes, shoes, and outdoor gear. So even though people do not get Whitenose syndrome, we can unknowingly move the fungus from one place to the other. So I guess that's the reason why the caves are closed.
Right. So Norm has a beautiful picture, beautiful sunset picture, of the gigantic evening flight. And I've read, I should have looked this up. I can remember reading an article. I close my eyes and I can sort of see it. And they've tagged these bats to follow their foraging. And if I remember correctly, they generally forage in the same areas. And it's an astounding distance they fly, because look, when you got 70,000 or 700,000 bats all coming out at night to go feed on insects, that 2 square miles around Carlsbad Cavern is not going to be the buffet that many mammals need to eat to survive. So beautiful picture, Norm. Thank you for those. Keep them coming. And anyone else who, if you've got pictures of birds, whether they're old pictures, new pictures you took yesterday, took 20 years ago, we don't care. Send us your pictures. We love to show off what our viewers can do. So now then, I'm doing this in honor of the host of the show who's taking time off for the winter, Dan George. I couldn't resist doing something on his favorite bird. All right. His favorite bird is the house sparrow. Now, for those of you who don't know, I am being somewhat facetious. Okay, I'm being very facetious. He hates these birds. All right. So I took these with an iPhone setting at a Chick-fil-A restaurant. House sparrows are not monomorphic. They're 5.9, in other words, 6 to 6.5 inches long. They are an invasive species in North America. They are shaped differently and chunkier than native sparrows. But because they are so prolific, they're the the bird we think about when we say sparrows, because they're everywhere. And they are highly tuned as a humanized bird. There are more of them in the cities than there are out in the wild. So they are a mark of urbanization, if you will. Males are brightly colored with gray heads, which you can see here in this picture, white cheeks, and a black bib. Females are drab, buffy brown. We have a picture of one here in a minute, and dingy gray underbellies. We'll come back to that. They're noisy, gregarious birds. So let's listen to these noisy, gregarious house sparrows. So that's just about it. That's what house sparrows sound like. I really like this picture because you see him, his wings are basically folding. He's coming in for a landing, and right. We'll see it in a minute. His wings are more or less folded. He's got his landing gear sort of pre-staged, ready to fling out and grab onto something. You can see they're year-round in their breeding populations. Sparrows, house sparrows, are basically in Arkansas year-round, and they cover South America. Interestingly enough, they were introduced in Brooklyn, New York in 1851. In 50 years, they'd made it to the Rockies, but they couldn't get over or around the Rockies. Well, That got fixed in the 1870s when the birds were released in San Francisco and Salt Lake City, which very quickly completed their spread across the continent and then down into South America. Okay. That constant, they're so humanized that they prefer to build their nests in human structures. They prefer to build behind signs, up in houses, under eaves, places of protection in human structures is their preferred nesting site. They're very brave around humans, just naturally brave. They fly down, land, hop around to forage, seeking seeds or in a yard or scraps of food outside a restaurant, which is where this was. They'll pick insects off the front of vehicles. I've seen them doing that. But they will even nest in traffic lights and anywhere they can get in for protection. Their constant cheeping is a trademark sound. But because they're so humanized and around us all the time, they're often overlooked because they just sort of become part of the background around us. They create out native species and take over nesting areas. Let's look at another bird real quick. Same bird, there he is, landed on top of a trash can. This bird would fly down into the trash can, pick something out, and then come back up, sit up here and eat it, go back in, go back down. Now, there was a female that I was tossing chunks of, actually I said this was a Chick-fil-A. It wasn't, it was a Panda Express. So I was tossing bits of rice out and feeding a female. We'll see her in just a second. This picture really shows off that gray cap, and he knows exactly where he's going. He's saying, there's something tasty down in there, and I am gonna go get it. All right, so here's the female, right? So I'll go up here to the female description. Brown, buffy, drab, dingy gray underbelly. Backs have noticeable stripes of buff, black, and brown. Like lots of birds, they're just sort of drab. They have some pretty coloration, but they're not the colors of the male that we see. You can also often see these birds taking dust baths, throwing soil and dust up over their bodies and fluffing up their feathers, much like other birds take water baths. Interestingly, this creates depressions in the ground that some birds will defend as their territory and be very aggressive and try to keep other birds from using their dust bath depression. All right, so they're aggressive. They will evict bluebirds, purple martins, and tree swallows. That's why if you're going to put up bluebird houses, you need to have very specific sized holes to keep help try and keep the house sparrows out. Purple martins are the same way. There's certain shapes that you can put on a purple martin house that will discourage the house sparrows from getting in. So, Dan, my man, if you're watching, these birds are a tribute to you. When I saw them, I was like, oh, Dan's going to love this. So anyway, Scott, we have any more? Let's go. We got one more, and this comes from Norm Hughes. It's a dragonfly or a damselfly.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's a beautiful picture, yeah. The coloration on dragonflies and damselflies is truly astounding. And I'm going to do a whole show on damselflies because this is on the wing, and by golly,
they have wings.
Those things have wings. Now, and we also have had the migratory blue angel. Those also have wings. And if I remember correctly, I think Carl Bernhardt took that one. Carl took the migrating blue angel, F-16 or FA-18 or whatever it was. Those have wings too, but I don't think we'll go that far to have a whole lot of airplanes very often on the show. So that's the end of what I've got prepared, Scott. What do we have to talk about for the customers, the viewers?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're talking about there was conversation about bats and the eaves of one of the homes. I think it was, yeah, Norm Hughes, maybe. I'm not sure. Kind of going through it, but he said he was trying to get rid of them, but he's given up. They're very persistent. It was Jeff Wise. Yeah, Jeff Wise. So
there was a school, Scott, in Bentonville, the old high school that became a middle school, and it became an elementary school, and they named it Old High Middle School. And there was a fundraiser to do this. It was built in like 1928, and it was a fundraiser back in the 90s to renovate this beautiful auditorium in there. And they went in to investigate, and they said, "Oh, there's a lot of bat manure up in there and guano." And I think it was 28 16-yard dump trucks later, they had all the bat. It was an astounding amount of guano. And the thing is, you imagine, I got to sneeze. Excuse me. Only imagine how many insects that represents. Because that represents insects. It's a staggering, untold billions of insects went in to make that guano pile. And guano, guano was an important war effort material back in the 1800s. There's islands that people would claim, that countries would claim around the Pacific and in the Atlantic, simply because they had so much bird poop on it, that they used the bird poop to the guano to make nitrites for the gunpowder, and was an important component for gunpowder. So, I don't know what happened to all that stuff, but it was quite an undertaking to get that. I was shocked the building didn't collapse under the weight of that stuff. I've been in a cave where the guano pile was massive, and let's just say you can smell it.
Smelly. Yeah. Well, they say that bat guano as a fertilizer is like a very incredible type of fertilizer.
Because of that
and
nitrate.
I think it's expensive. Yeah.
It's because of that nitrate. Exactly. So
Beatrice Hines says she likes to photograph damselflies and dragonflies. So Beatrice, you need to turn in some photos when we get to that those segments of our program. They'll be cool.
Yeah, go send them to me now, because I can work on it. But I'll tell you what, it's hard to photograph birds, but photographing damselflies and dragonflies and getting them in focus and composed right, that's hard, because one, they're small, and I've been trying it with my iPhone, and very difficult to get close enough to them to get a picture. Probably a little bit easier with a zoom lens, a good macro lens, or a good zoom lens that has a close focus on it. So
Lubo says the Luna moth is also amazing. I saw it once, and it was almost ghostly experience.
Mm-hmm. We have Luna moths here.
Yes.
Yep.
Harold Locke says that in the swamps and streams in North Carolina, where I grew up, we have beautiful metallic dragonflies. Beautiful. Jeff says that bats are very, very scary looking up close. I've seen them way too close up.
Yeah. I've had neighbor people who, there's a bat in my house. I just go over with a pair of leather gloves and just pick it up and carry it outside and let it go. I mean, it's right. It's the fear, of getting bit because rabies and blah, blah, blah. But you just gotta, I don't want to whack it with a board. I mean, it didn't do anything to earn getting whacked with a board. Use a net, get outside. And in women's fear, my mom was deathly afraid of a bat getting caught in her hair. Her sister, my Aunt Mary, is even worse about it. I mean, they just think it's gonna happen, right?
Right. I just shared a story about Jay West. There was some conversations about Jay West, and what hit the news today from several different outlets is how much anxiety is kind of building up. And I share that anxiety. I think I'll more rephrase that. I'm kind of like on pins and needles about it. because it's such an important, mission. It's not only the expense, but I know that, that careers hang in the balance on something like this. So
What are we talking about, Scott? I lost track of what we were talking about.
James Webb Space Telescope.
Gotcha. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. We got we were just there was chat about James Webb
Right.
Space Telescope.
Is it still on? Is it still launching on December 25th?
Still launching. It's like a one day and
Yeah.
some hours away at this point before launch. But it'll definitely give us something to look at on Christmas Day, that's for sure. So it's gonna be thrilling to watch it go up, and for it to it's gonna take like I think 6 months before they get it totally active.
Yeah.
So
it is rocket science after all, and rocket launches happen all the time now, and we've come to think it's sort of like that idea. The space shuttle, people started to become so comfortable with the space shuttle launching that they forgot that it is rocket science, and rockets getting out of Earth orbit and coming back into land are very stressful, amazingly complicated things, and we all hope that the launch goes flawlessly. But
yes.
I just
they've got a good chance of that. It's going up on what is claimed to be the most reliable launch vehicle ever devised.
Right,
so,
the Ariane 5 or something like that, right?
Right.
Yep. It'll be cool to. I've never seen a rocket launch. I wish I'd gone to see a shuttle launch or landing. I don't know why I didn't. Just didn't do it. Some of my friends at church were there for the last shuttle landing, and they called me, and I heard the sonic booms, which was just real cool.
That's
to hear the sonic boom. I at least got to hear in person.
You were there electronically.
Yeah, I was there electronically, but not the same thing as seeing it come in or launch. But yeah.
Right.
So
I think the biggest part of it when you see a launch, and I've only seen one up close, and that was the last shuttle launch. And it's the reaction of other people, that are watching it, and the feeling of it, the pounding that you feel in your chest, the reverberations were just, I didn't expect it, so.
Right.
And I did, when you see it go up, because of the speed of it going up and then the distance that it takes for the sound to hit you, you actually see like the space shuttle is like watching a skyscraper jump into the sky. So
it sits there and it just so barely moves. It's like it's not moving, and it just builds up so much thrust.
When you're close, though, you see it. It's just, it was already, hundreds of feet in the air before I heard anything, and so that was also unexpected. But we're gonna have a lot of launches happen in the next decade, and so you're definitely going to have your chance, Ken.
I'm sitting here looking right now, Scott. We're going to the Winter Star Party, and there's potential for a SpaceX Falcon 9 to go off, launching a satellite.
Mm-hmm.
And then the United Launch Alliance Atlas 5 goes off, launching GOES-T on February 16th. So, although that's a long drive from
you can see these launches, especially night launches, from a pretty big distance. I did see another launch, but I don't count that really as seeing it. But I have seen night launches when I lived in California, and
from Vandenberg.
And I did see one shuttle launch at night, but from a very far distance. So it was cool just to get a glimpse of it.
It looks like one of those things you would have to go down to with sort of an open-ended itinerary, because there's always you can't go and say
cancel. They cancel all the time. So
we were down there on spring break a few years ago, and there was one scheduled for Wednesday, and they got put off to Thursday, and then Saturday, and we came home because you just have to stay down there, committed to stay and see it. So anyway, any other comments we got?
People are saying Merry Christmas, Happy
Merry
Holidays.
Christmas to everybody. Happy.
Yeah.
Play that video you were going to play. Are you going to do it at the end, or you just want to play it now?
I'll do it right now. Okay. This is here. Let me run.
We had our Christmas party today, and got stuffed on Italian food.
Right. And I did talk about the Alpine Tetons a little bit and shared a link.
Okay.
The views of that are just.
Oh yeah, the ones on your
Ken
desk.
and I have looked through a lot of binoculars. Okay, and they were startling how good they were.
Yeah. And the close focus. I was sitting on the other side of Scott's desk and was able to focus on his shoulder, basically where his
6
shoulder
feet
is
away.
right now.
6 feet away. So if you're into also looking at butterflies and damselflies and dragonflies, this is really remarkable how close you can get in. But
for sure,
there's all kinds of other wildlife you could be looking at up close. So that's very cool.
And Annie gave me strict directions, Scott. I'm glad I thought about this. Because she would just be beside herself if I didn't mention we have an astrophotography contest going on right now.
Okay.
And it's a meteor astrophotography class. Okay. So we're looking for meteor astrophotography.
Not class, but contest, right? It's a contest.
That's a class contest. Yeah. Yes. A meteor contest. So taking pictures of meteors. And if somebody happened to have a spectacular picture of a meteorite, right? Actually, it's just cool, sitting on a beach somewhere for summer or something. I bet we'd take that as an entry, just as creative license, since it's not technically a meteor anymore, but it was a meteor. So you're taking a picture of something that was a meteor, that's not a meteor, but it was a meteor. So, send us your photos. We try to be inclusive. We don't try to be. If you
throw a meteorite into the air,
you can capture that.
Not a meteor.
It's suddenly a meteor. Well, does it?
Because I guess it's not burning up, right? So
it's not burning up. I don't. And frankly, if you can throw something hard enough to get to burn up in the atmosphere, you can go pitch in the major leagues and make a lot of money real fast. Although
do the Olympics first, that'll really impress. So well, that's great. So I will. I'll start to close the program. We'll show our silent flag video, and then our Happy Holidays videos right up next. So,
and we're next week.
Yep.
Diving into chickadees. Deep dive into chickadees.
Okay. All right. We won't have a Monday show, but we'll do coming attractions, and I'll let you guys know what's going on. We do have the 78th Global Star Party happening next Tuesday night. And
what's the topic there, Scott?
It hasn't been picked yet, but it's something. It's going to be something, I think, that has to do with new beginnings. Something like that. So not sure about that, but anyhow, cool. I mean, everybody's kind of taking a fresh look at and very hopeful about what Jay West is going to do. By that time, we will certainly know if it's been launched or not, and so that will be the next step into the great unknown for us. So. And I think that's it. Do you have anything else you'd like to add before we? Okay.
It's been a year. It's been a year already.
Yes.
And,
it's been a better year than it was last year. That's for sure.
Look, I take a look at this. I don't see last year 2020 as bad. It was extremely different.
It was hard. It was hard. Different because we had to change our habits, lifestyle, all of that. I mean, I would have normally been traveling all over. You would have been traveling too, Kent, and so we stayed home. The good part is that we stayed home. Okay, we got to be with family more. We got to
absolutely
learn how to do this kind of broadcasting and reach out more. And so that there were definitely positives to it for sure.
and I've talked about this a little bit before. My dad died in October of 2020. Had COVID not struck, and I feel sort of guilty saying this, but this is the reality. Had COVID not struck, I wouldn't have spent as much time with him as I did, because I would have had other things to do other than go hang out with dad 3 times a week. But it was awesome. My wife had talked about it. It makes me feel guilty, but it's like that Cats in the Cradle song, it made me feel guilty, but I'm weirdly glad it happened, because I got to spend a massive more time with my dad than I would otherwise. So, there's benefits to us. A lot of us figured out we can slow down. We don't have to be constantly busy all the time. And I think that's healthy for families and relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
Your kids don't have to go from soccer to baseball to band, and be on this driven schedule.
Yeah. And you don't have to become the your kid's taxi driver,
And
so
it just becomes, it creates so much stress, and,
it's more dangerous too. I mean, the more time you're on the road,
more chance
you have more opportunity to get that fender bender or whatever.
And I look at it this way: kids need free time, right? Kids need time to be free, to not have a device in their hand, to be free and just go build friendships, go outside and be curious, go play in the mud, go swim in the stock tank. What's on the other side of that creek? Those things are all important, but yet we've come as a culture to think we have to fill up every moment of our children's waking, time with some specific activity designed to raise their test scores and not make them better people, right? So, all right, I'm waxing philosophical.
You're waxing, okay. Then so did our audience.
Yeah, I will start whining.
Beatrice Hines says, thank you, Kent and Scott, for the show. Thank you, Beatrice, for watching. She says, Merry Christmas. Harold Locke says, great. Thanks, Kent. Great presentation. Tarek says, thank you very much, all. And Beatrice says, yay, another GSP. That's great. Tarek says, thank you, Scott and Kent, for this nice stream. Harold Locke says, enjoyed the weekend. Jim's Astro says, Merry Christmas to you all. Martin Eastburn says, Merry Christmas all, and Mele Kalikimaka to all and all. Beatrice says, yes, a year passes so quick. Harold Locke, if it wasn't for last year, I wouldn't have met everyone here. That's true. Thank you, Harold, for pointing that out. Beatrice says, indeed, Kent, every crisis has its negatives and positives. Tarek says, to me, actually, COVID never even affected my life, that's wonderful. Yeah. And sadly, Harold did lose 2 people to the plague. We all know people that were lost and affected by COVID. That definitely reminds us of how precious our lives are, and our friendships are, and our families are, and all of that. And that is the tough part. That's for sure.
I try to take the attitude of, don't go to bed with a relationship unmended, because you don't have time to fix it after you don't have any more time. And, don't let unsaid things be unsaid.
Yeah.
So sort of a positive sort of thing,
Yep.
I just like talking to these people, to everybody, the friendships, while it may be digital friendships, I know Tariq's in the UAE, and Christmas is not a holiday there, I suspect. But we cross cultures, and it makes me aware of, being inclusive,
Yep.
not excluding anybody for reasons of, where they live, or their religion, or lack of religion, or whatever it is, or their not understanding of birds or flight or feathers. we're all on this journey on this pale blue dot. And just like the Beldings Savannah sparrow relies on 4 or 5 species of plants in disappearing salt marshes, we all rely on each other to do the right thing, and not trample each other.
Yep. Jim Norwood says some of the best friends I've never met in person.
I like that term.
Yeah. Beatrice is sending you her blessings for sending blessings for the loss of your father. Jeff Wise says happy Festivus to everyone. And well, you guys are all special to us. So, and the fact that we interact with you live, you're chatting live with us. That's wonderful, because without this technology, we couldn't do this. So, we wouldn't know each other. So with few exceptions that we might bump into each other at an event sometime, but which we certainly hope that you will all try to attend some of the astronomy events going on. And Annie's over here looking at my door, smiling. So I think that you want to say happy holidays to the audience here. Here, let me turn the camera on to Annie.
She's right.
Happy holidays, everybody. I've
Yep.
been running ragged, but yes, I hope everybody has a blessed holiday season.
Yep. So, yeah, and they're saying hi back. Yeah.
I enjoy watching Scott interact with everybody, and I enjoy talking to everybody. It's amazing. It's so much fun.
And Harold says, and don't forget to tell people that you love them. So that's right. Well, you guys have a wonderful weekend. Have a Merry Christmas, a happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, happy however you celebrate it. Enjoy it. Be close to your family and friends as much as you can, and count your blessings and share blessings with them. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. Take
Bye,
care,
everybody.
All right. Bye-bye. To everyone, happy holidays and Merry Christmas.